Hello there. Welcome to Recreated Recreation. My name is Wesley. Today, instead of doing an unopening like the two previous videos that I've done, we're going to actually be looking through a deck that I've previously built recently. I haven't gotten the chance to try it, and I was hoping that somebody might be able to provide some input and tell me what they think of the deck. This is going to be a longer video. I typically review cards pretty fast. I plan on uploading the deck to Moxfield so that if somebody doesn't want to go through the whole video with me, you don't have to. I'll paste the link below. Yeah. This deck has Abdel, Adrian, helmed as the commander, with Candlekeep Sage as the background. So I'm going to flip. Perfect. So I'll read the mana cost of the card, the card type, and I'll try and read all the text. I want everybody to have a comprehensive understanding of each card, and each card has its place. Abdel Adrian, I believe it's pronounced Gorian, but I'm not certain. Gorian's Ward, 4 colorless and a white, a little bit heavier mana cost for like a CDH commander, but I typically play with people who are bracket 3. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, give you guys a better view. Legendary creature, human warrior. When Abdel Adrian Gorian's Ward enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until Abdel Adrian leaves the battlefield. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exiled this way, and you get to choose a background. It was really tempting to choose black as the background color because creating tokens and having the capability of sacrificing, not to mention paper cuts and life burn and whatnot. If I ever do get the chance to play this with my pod, I doubt they would have any fun with that. This is arguably one of my more competitive decks. I mean, I haven't gotten to try it out, granted, but yes. Candlekeep Sage. I got the etched foil version. This is pretty nice. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I like it. 2 colorless and a blue. Legendary enchantment background. Commander creatures you own have, when this creature enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. Now, a big premise of this deck, and I'm not certain of this, I did a little bit of research, so I believe it works this way. When Abdel enters the battlefield, his enter the battlefield trigger, because he's the permanent on the stack, triggers first, so you can exile Candlekeep Sage so that you don't have to draw a card. If I'm wrong about that, then this deck is completely trash, because the entire idea is getting him and a whole bunch of other things to infinite, well, I guess you have to quantify everything, but to blink on and off the battlefield repeatedly. So, for our non-basic lands, we have Port Town. As Port Town enters the battlefield, you may reveal a Plains or Island card from your hand. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. And Prairie Stream. It enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. And as you can guess based off of the text, those 2, the rest are plains and islands. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 island plains. I'd like to get a full set of these. I don't even know what set this is from. But that foil with the lightning and whoever that sorcerer is in the background. I really like the art. I think it's pretty cool. Illustrated by Eric Peterson. 2023, so not that long ago. And I mean, that's kind of got like a 90s style to it. I really like this plains. I believe I said 16 plains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 islands. So an even number of plains and islands. I don't have any special treatment islands that I really like. There's none that really speak to me out of these particularly. I just did get the land station because I've been running low on them. There's a whole bunch of the Warhammer ones loaded in here, which eventually I do want to change out so that I can make a Grixis deck with the Warhammer lands. So, we have a total of 16, 32, 34 lands. For mana ramp, we're running Arcane Signet, Thought Vessel, no maximum hand size, Gold Pan. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Now, because this is an enter the battlefield trigger, this is a key ramp piece that we want. Normally this isn't your standard ramp piece, but because this only costs 2 mana and it can be any combination of colors and it creates a treasure token, this is key. Cloud of Fairies, when it comes into play, untap up to 2 lands, colorless and a blue, and it's a flying 1/1 as well, and you can also cycle it, so in case it proves little value to you at the moment, you can cycle it, but I mean, I love Cloud of Fairies. Hierophant's Chalice, 3 colorless artifact. When Hierophant's Chalice enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, and it also taps for colorless. Again, we're blinking things, and this is one of the 2 ways I believe I have to gain life in this deck, and it's one of the 2, maybe 3 ways to do paper cuts to people. Eldrazi Sky Spawner. This is one of my favorite ones. 2 colorless and a blue, devoid, flying. When Eldrazi Sky Spawner enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Sky on creature token onto the battlefield. It has sacrificed this creature, add 1 colorless to your mana pool. And it's a 2/1. The fact that it has : means that you can do it as soon as it enters the battlefield. You can do it at instant speed. It's awesome. Scampering Surveyor, 4 colorless, artifact creature, gnome. When Scampering Surveyor enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card or cave card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. I don't have any caves in here. This guy lets me put a land onto the battlefield when he enters. The whole point is just blinking him, pulling out as many lands as possible. And, I mean, he's also a 3/2. It doesn't hurt to have a little bit of a body on him. Solum Simeraculum. This is just, I mean, he's kind of better than Scampering Surveyor because when he dies, you can draw a card. Well, may draw a card. But when he enters, he does the same thing, except instead of a cave, it's just a basic. So, I mean, if you're playing caves, obviously Scampering Surveyor is going to be better. But Solum Simeraculum does the trick. Meteorite. A whopping 5 mana. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. So instead of 1 damage to each opponent, like Hierophant's Chalice... I'm sorry, target opponent for Hierophant's Chalice. It does 2 to any target. And it also taps for 1 mana of any color. And then Peregrine Drake. 4 colorless and a blue. Creature Drake, flying. When Peregrine Drake enters the battlefield, untap up to 5 lands, and it's a 2/3. Enter the battlefield effects are the main cause of this deck. I mean, most CDH decks need 10 to 15 ramp cards underneath 2 mana, like 2 or less mana. So, I mean, this obviously isn't a CDH deck just by looking at my mana. But for the bracket that I would be playing this in, these do the trick, especially if they're going on and off the battlefield. All right. Now, let's look at the body of this deck, what we got in here. I'll start with a couple mean ones just to get it off the bat. Manic Scribe, a colorless and a blue creature, human wizard. When Manic Scribe enters the battlefield, each opponent puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So if you're playing with 3 opponents, that's 9 cards in the graveyard every time it enters the battlefield. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, that player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. That's not as important because it's more about bouncing this, blinking it on and off the battlefield, and milling 3 cards per opponent. Yeah. Zilliport Duelist, 1 blue, flash. When Zilliport Duelist enters the battlefield, up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 until end of turn. Its controller mills 2 cards. If you're able to blink this during combat, you can make everybody's creatures do nothing to yours. It's pretty useful for combat tricks, but it's also 1 mana for something that makes whoever you can give -2/-0 milling 2 cards. So that does the same kind of purpose as Manic Scribe, but it's also useful for combat. Lunarch Veteran. 1 white. I have Soul's Warden and Soul's Attendant, but they're in other decks where they're more useful and more valuable. Because this guy says whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life, and he's 1 white mana. This is again, all about blinking my creatures. And then also I can pull him from the graveyard. His disturb cost is a colorless and a white. And it has a creature, Spirit Cleric, flying. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Luminous Phantom were to be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So this guy works either way because I'm blinking things. And honestly, it's kind of better to have him in here than Soul's Warden and Soul's Attendant because I can pull him back from the graveyard. Augury Owl. A colorless and a blue creature bird. Flying. When Augury Owl enters the battlefield, scry 3. 3. Just letting you look in your library, letting you dig a little bit deeper, find those cards that you want, keep some stuff in your library instead of drawing them all out with Candlekeep Sage. Now, let's get to something juicy. Eret's Tempting Apple. Most spells that are capable of doing this are red or are ridiculously expensive in mana-wise or money-wise. 4 colorless legendary artifact food. When Eret's Tempting Apple enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. The standard cost for red spells that do that is typically 2 to 3 colorless and red, or I think there's one, I know there's one that's a colorless and 2 red, and it also gives a keyword. So just 1 more mana to have this outside of red's colors. And if this is able to blink on and off the battlefield, you can gain control of every creature until end of turn, and they all can gain haste. And you can also give your board haste as well. So if you already have control of your creature, but if you gain control of your creature that you already have control of, you gave it haste. And you can untap it. That's also important. You can untap creatures. You can also sack it to gain 3 life for 2 mana, your standard food thing. And you can also sack it to make a target opponent lose 3 life. We won't be doing that. We are focused on blinking this on and off the battlefield and stealing people's creatures and untapping our own and giving our own haste. Diluvian Primordial. This is a whopping 7 mana, 5 colorless and 2 blue. Creature avatar, flying. When Diluvian Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. This is less about playing other people's spells than it is about making sure that people can't recur their counter spells, can't recur their instants and sorceries that buff their board state. I want instants and sorceries out of there. I don't want to have to deal with them. He's also a 5/5 flyer, so you get a good body with him. And for what he does, I guess he's technically worth his mana cost. And I mean, for each opponent, that's pretty powerful. And what's also useful with this is like, early game, you're not really worried about it getting this guy out because there's nothing in anybody's graveyard. I mean, sure, if somebody has a flyer and you want to get rid of it, yeah, but you're not going to have 7 mana turn 2 or 3 in your typical Magic the Gathering table. So, this can be played later on after instants and sorceries. That's why I'm not too worried about the mana cost. Yeah. Celestial Armor. This card is so underrated. 2 colorless and a white artifact equipment. It has flash. When this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has flying. Such an amazing equipment. I mean, it gives you protection on that creature until end of turn, and it gives it +2/+0 and has flying, and like that stays on it. You can give any of your creatures +2/+0 and flying for 3 mana, and give it protection for a turn. Sure, to equip it, it's 4, but I mean, just to have this in your hand, it's such a power piece. I love this card. I think it's super underrated. And if we're blinking it, we can give all of our creatures hexproof and indestructible if we wanted to. Yeah. Sun Pearl Kirin. A colorless and a white creature, Kirin. Flash Flying. When this creature enters, return up to one other target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. If it was a token, draw a card. So if for some reason Candlekeep Sage has been destroyed 20 times and the commander tax on it is ridiculous, Sun Pearl Kieran can exile one of the tokens that Abdel creates, and you can draw cards off of this. The fact that it has Flash and it's a 2/1 with Flying for 2 mana, I mean, it's good just to have, but I mean, if somebody's running a board wipe, if somebody's trying to destroy your creature, you can put this on the stack and save that creature, and you can get that enter the battlefield effect again. This card is fantastic. I love it so much. I wish I had another one of it. I'm sure it's not worth much because it's another overlooked card, but again, I love this. It's super useful. It's got a ton of utility. It's very versatile. Plum Creed Escort. I've been meaning to get another copy of this because I want to put it in a bird deck that's focused on entering the battlefield. I need a Bant deck. I don't have one yet. There's this Bant commander I've been looking at, but I want another one of these for it. A colorless and a blue. Creature, Bird Scout, Flash Flying. When Plum Creed Escort enters, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. It's another way to give hexproof and protect one of my creatures, or protect a creature that just entered the battlefield that I want to protect its effect for. And if I'm blinking this, I can give everything hexproof. So if somebody plays, I forget the name of the spell. It says each player, for each creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it unless they pay X life. I can just give them all hexproof and not have to deal with it, and my other opponents would have to deal with that cost. Carrier Strix. This is an amazing card to have in this. 1 blue. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, tap target permanent. Just any permanent. You can tap a land, you can tap a creature, you can tap an enchantment, an artifact, whatever. If you do what I'm planning on doing with this deck, I have a lot of things that react at instant speed that can blink. You can, I forget if you can respond to somebody drawing, but if you can, I mean, there's a cycle in this where you can blink this on and off the battlefield and just lock your opponent's boards for 1 blue mana for a flying 1/1. It's amazing. I love this card. In this deck particularly, it's so powerful. Yeah, Carrier Strix is great. Tax Collector. 1 colorless and a white. When Tax Collector enters the battlefield, choose one. It's a human advisor. Until your next turn, spells your opponent's cast cost 1 more to cast. Or you can choose the other one. Detain target creature and opponent controls. Until your next turn, that creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. If this guy goes on and off the battlefield, he is so much trouble. And the fact that he's just 2 mana for a 2/2, and the effects are amazing. There's another one that costs 2 mana. It's a human warrior, and it's a 2/2, and it just says when it enters, detain target creature. But this guy, he allows that other option, tax. And just to be able to put your opponents out of playing spells for an entire turn, especially if you hit that loop where you can do this every turn. I mean, you can lock your opponents out of the game and just swing for lethal. Anointed Peacekeeper. 2 colorless and a white creature, human cleric, vigilance. As Anointed Peacekeeper enters the battlefield, look at an opponent's hand, then choose any card name. Spells your opponent's cast with a chosen name cost 2 more to cast. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cost 2 more to activate unless they're mana abilities. Now, I don't know if it resets him when he leaves the battlefield. I'd imagine that he would need to be on the battlefield for the effect to take place. But the way that I kind of envisioned it is if he can enter and leave the battlefield multiple times, I can choose multiple things and make them cost a detrimental amount to cast. I don't know if that's the way this card works. If it doesn't work this way, could you please let me know? I mean, it's still useful if I can bounce it because I can I can make something cost 2 more to cast, and I can make activated abilities 2 more to activate, so I can slow somebody down, potentially for 4, depending on what they're trying to drop. But if it's not able to select multiple cards, I mean, obviously it's not as useful. 3/3 Vigilance isn't bad to have. Aven Interrupter. A colorless and 2 white creature bird rogue. Flash flying. When Aven Interrupter enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted. Its owner may cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Spells your opponents cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast. This is amazing if people have stuff on the stack and you just don't want to deal with it that turn. And especially because it's plotted and it has to be played on a later turn, but also they have to pay 2 more to cast it. So this is really useful and versatile. I don't know if exiling target spell can count for permanents that are on the battlefield that have already resolved. I mean, if it does, so be it. If it doesn't, awesome. Really cool card. Overcharge Amalgam. This is probably one of the meanest cards in this deck. 2 colorless, 2 blue. Creature, zombie horror, flash flying, exploit. When this creature enters, you may sacrifice a creature. And if you recall, Abdel Adrian makes creatures whenever he enters the battlefield and he exiles things. When this creature exploits a creature, counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. Very, very, very powerful card in this deck if you can get it to blink, if you can return it to your hand. I mean, obviously you want to avoid paying that mana cost again and again to counter things, but if you're able to hit that loop, you're able to do some pretty crazy things with that. Amphin Mutineer. 3 colorless and a blue. When this creature enters, exile up to 1 target non-salamander creature. That creature's controller creates a 4/3 blue salamander warrior creature token. You can also encore it. I don't really plan to use the encore ability, but you can exile so many creatures. There's barely any salamanders. If somebody has a problem state, you can just get rid of it. Avacyn, get rid of it. Meteor Golem. 7 colorless. Artifact creature Golem. When this creature enters, destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Plain, simple, beautiful. Palace Jailer. This one's nice. 2 colorless and 2 white creature human soldier. When Palace Jailer enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. When Palace Jailer enters the battlefield, exile target creature and opponent controls until an opponent becomes the monarch. So this guy can repeatedly go on the battlefield and just exile things until somebody else becomes the monarch. And it's kind of hard to become monarch if you don't have creatures. Angel of Finality. This is kind of just a safety sake card. 3 colorless and a white flying. When Angel of Finality enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. It's just removal from the graveyard. Nothing too crazy. Disruptor of Currents. This one's great because of those creatures that Abdel's going to be creating. Flash Convoke. When this creature enters, return up to 1 other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. The fact that this comes with a body and I can return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand, whether it be mine to protect my stuff or somebody else's when they're attacking. Pretty versatile. There's a lot of things you can do with it, especially if you're blinking it. Boomerang! I found this looking at my older cards with my Ice Age and I forget what that set is called. I should know it, but I don't. Return target permanent to owner's hand. Permanent. And that includes lands. I'm going to put instants kind of to the side because there's this cycle that I'm going to attempt to show you guys. So this instant's going to go over there. This town ain't big enough. 4 colorless and a blue. Instant. This spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a permanent you control. So it can cost 1 colorless and 1 blue. Return up to 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. I can target 1 that's mine and 1 that's somebody else's. I can target 2 that's mine, or I could pay 5 and target 2 that are somebody else's. This is nice in a pinch. I mean, if It's hard to get graveyard to battlefield recursion, so I'd rather protect my permanents by returning them to my hand rather than have to deal with them in the graveyard. This spell's great for that. Again, another instant. Ghostly Flicker. 2 colorless and a blue. Instant. Exile 2 artifacts, creatures, and or lands you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under your control. I could probably put some lands that have entered the battlefield effects in. I don't. But the fact that this can target 2 and it can also target artifacts is pretty awesome. Ephemerate, 1 white mana, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, and you get rebound. This is probably the best 1 white mana blink spell. You get to cast it twice. You get to start the loop all over again if you rebound it, and during your upkeep you have this in exile. Slip on the Ring, 1 colorless and a white, exile target creature you own, then return it to the battlefield under your control. The ring tempts you. Long Road Home. A colorless and a white instant, exile target creature. At the beginning of the next end step, return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. This is great if somebody's targeting you or a creature you control and you don't want it to be targeted and you don't happen to have Plum Creed Mentor or that armor, the artifact. It's great because you can remove that creature from everything and it doesn't have to be a target, and it comes back and you get that enter the battlefield effect again. Fraying Line. This one's actually pretty fun. 4 colorless artifact. When Fraying Line enters the battlefield, put a rope counter on target creature you control. So if I blink this, I can put a rope counter on each creature I control. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may pay 2. If they do, they put a rope counter on a creature they control. Otherwise, exile Fraying Line and each creature without a rope counter on it, then remove all rope counters from all creatures. So I could completely protect my board, put a rope counter on every single creature that I have, and then each opponent can save 1 of their creatures, and then once it comes back to me, I just don't pay the 2, and I exile everything that doesn't have a rope counter on it. Pretty efficient way to get a board wipe in. Yeah, I love this card. I think it's really powerful. My pod would probably hate it. I'm probably never going to get to play this deck unless I play it with somebody who's actually okay with salty decks, but this card can be pretty aggressive if it gets out right. Mass Polymorph. 5 colorless and a blue. Exile all creatures you can... It is sorcery speed. Exile all creatures you control, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal that many creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way onto the battlefield, then shuffle the rest of the revealed cards into your library. The idea with this one is get Abdel Adrian to where he enters the battlefield and then exile all creatures, every single one, and then you play Mass Polymorph, and yes, it will exile Abdel Adrian, but you also exile all those tokens, which are next to useless, and you can dig out every single creature from your library. Pretty awesome way to change the board state. I mean, yes, it's 6 mana, but if you pull it off right, you can do a lot of things. Final Showdown, white, and it's got that little plus symbol because it's spree. It's at instant speed. Choose 1 or more additional costs. You can do +1. All creatures lose all abilities until end of turn. Amazing. Another +1. Choose target creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. And then +3 colorless and 2 white. Destroy all creatures. So if somebody has a way to get past Fraying Line, or if somebody has a way to get past... because Fraying Line says... and each creature without a rope counter. So if somebody's creatures have hexproof, you can pay 2 to remove hexproof until end of turn. So, love this card. It's a lifesaver if you have one of those cards that targets everything. Planar Cleansing. 3 colorless and 3 white. Sorcery. Destroy all non-land permanents. Just everything. And what's great is the only thing that we're going to be destroying that actually costs any mana is Abdel, because he'll enter, we'll exile everything, and the only thing we'd be destroying is Abdel. And yes, the only thing we'd be destroying is Abdel. Hindering Light, a white and a blue, instant, counter target spell that targets you or a permanent you control, draw a card. Excellent protection spell, and you draw a card for 2 mana. Cancel, a colorless and 2 blue, instant counter spell. Counter spell, 2 blue, counter target spell. Devious counter up, 2 colorless and 2 blue, instant counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it. Instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard, you may shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. That last part's nice. Ice out, 1 colorless and 2 white, bargain. The spell costs 1 less to cast if it's bargain, so I can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token. Abdel creates tokens, so this is basically just another counterspell. Now, let's get into the good stuff. OG, the Exquisite Blade, 2 colorless, a white blue. Legendary creature, human monk. When OG, the Exquisite Blade, enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 2. I apologize, I have 3 ways to gain life. Yes, I have 3 ways to gain life in this. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If you don't happen to hit any of the blink spells, this guy will cover you because he stays on the board, and you can blink off with your second spell each turn. So OG is awesome to have. Honestly, he'd make a pretty neat commander, but he fits in here better. Phantom Steed. I love Phantom Steed. Phantom Steed is so underrated. So unbelievably underrated. I don't know why this card isn't expensive. I should look it up. It probably is expensive. 3 colorless and a blue. Yes, I know it's 4 mana, but it has flash. When Phantom Steed enters the battlefield, exile another target creature you control until Phantom Steed leaves the battlefield. Whenever Phantom Steed attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of the exiled creature, except it's an illusion in addition to its other types. Sacrifice that token at end of combat, and it's a 4/3. At the end of the person whose turn it is before you, you can cast this for its flash cost. You can exile a creature. You can make a copy of it every turn, whether it's Abdel, whether it's OG, whether it's, I think it's Adrian. He gives you extra turns if he deals combat damage. He's not in this deck, but there's so many things you can do with this card. I love Phantom Steed so much. It's got a body. It's got flash. It's got plenty of enter the battlefield interaction, and it has attack interaction, especially for any cards that say you can only attack, like Bloodthirster. If you can attack with Phantom Steed, create a tapped and attacking token. Yeah, if you have Bloodthirster and you have Phantom Steed, you can send Bloodthirster out and get an extra combat every combat. If you have Adrian, again, I'm probably botching the name, you can get extra turns if he deals combat damage to a player. There's so many things you can do with Phantom Steed. I love this card. I can't get enough of it. One of my favorites, especially in this deck. Fiend Hunter, he's one of our combo pieces, colorless and 2 white. When this creature enters, you may exile another target creature. When this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's a 1/3. There is another card that I prefer to this. It's called Werefox Bodyguard. Pretty much the only difference is it has to be a non-fox creature. That's easy. And it also has flash. Werefox Bodyguard is just better, and plus there's an ability that it has where you can sacrifice it, but currently that's in my Firelord Zuko deck, and I haven't swapped it out. I don't know if I want to swap it out, because I might not be able to play this deck. This deck is pretty brutal. Oblivion Ring, another one of our combo pieces, 2 colorless and a white. When Oblivion Ring comes into play, remove another target non-land permanent from the game. When Oblivion Ring leaves play, return the remove card to play under its owner's control. So let's say Abdel's on the field, and then you play Fiend Hunter and you exile Abdel. You can play Oblivion Ring, which exiles Fiend Hunter, which brings back Abdel, which can exile Oblivion Ring, which brings back this, and then you start your infinite loop. You can also do that with Phantom Steed, and you can also do that with Journey to Nowhere. When it enters the battlefield, exile target creature. When it leaves the battlefield, return it to its owner's control. A white and a colorless enchantment. And then you can also do that with Detention Sphere. A colorless, a white and a blue enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-land permanent not named Detention Sphere and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent. When Detention Sphere leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. If somebody's running a token deck, this is a great way to mitigate that. And it's also a combo piece. I can start the loop up with this. Or if I happen to make copies of something and I don't want those copies. Or if there's counters. I mean, that's the great thing about things leaving the battlefield. I can make sure there's no counters put on stuff that I don't want. Icewind Stalwart. This guy I genuinely should swap out for Werefox Bodyguard. Not only because Werefox Bodyguard is less mana, but because it says when Icewind Stalwart enters battlefield, exile up to one target non-warrior creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. Abdel is a warrior. So this guy's set to be swapped out. He can combo with Fiend Hunter or Oblivion. No, not Oblivion Ring. Or Phantom Steed. Again, not ideal for this deck. He's going to get swapped out. I'm actually going to do that right after the video. All right. Now that we got our combo pieces, let's look at recovery. Redemption Choir. 2 colorless and 2 white, creature, vampire, cleric, lifelink. Whenever Redemption Choir enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, that's really easy to do, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Super nice, especially because once that permanent enters, then we can blink it. Marshal's Anthem. 2 colorless and 2 white. This is something that I might return to my hand. Because when it enters the battlefield, it only does it for the amount of times it was kicked. I don't believe multi-kicker costs really stay on the card if you blink it. So, yeah, you may pay an additional that any number of times as you cast this spell. So this is something you'd want to return to your hand. I don't have that many graveyard recovery things for massive amounts of creatures. So, I mean, this kind of has to do for now. Good card nonetheless. Karmic Guide. 3 colorless and 2 white, creature, angel spirit, flying, protection from black, that's always nice to have. Echo 3 colorless and 2 white. At the beginning of your upkeep, if this came under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay its echo cost. When Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, something dies, boom, bring it back. Yeah, you have to pay a total of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana, including 4 white. Pretty hefty cost, but I mean, if you blink it, you don't have to worry about that, because Echo is at the beginning of your upkeep if this came under your control since the beginning of your last endkeep. So if you blink it, you can not worry about it, which is nice. Hana, Ship's Navigator, just another way to return an artifact or enchantment from my graveyard to my hand. Legendary creature, Human Artificer, 1 colorless, white and a blue, and a tap to activate her ability. This is where it gets good. Tenacious Tomeseeker, 2 colorless and a blue. Bargain, you can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token. Again, easy. When Tenacious Tomeseeker enters the battlefield, if it was bargain, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. That includes counterspells. That includes... I should probably put Swords to Plowshares in here and other instants and sorceries, but just the fact that I'm able to pull instants and sorceries out infinitely and untap lands if I have this guy out, there's lots of stuff you can do. Pneumatic Wall, 4 colorless and a blue, 2 more mana. It's a defender with 0/4. When it enters, you can return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Significantly less valuable than Tenacious Tomeseeker, especially because Abdel creates tokens. But, I mean, it's something. And then Archaeomancer, 2 colorless, 2 blue. Creature, human wizard. When Archaeomancer enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Again, not as good as Tenacious Tomeseeker in this deck particularly, but still, it returns an instant or sorcery. Sally Sparrow, 2 colorless, a white and a blue. Legendary creature, human detective. You may cast creature spells as though they had flash. That does so much for this deck. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control leave the battlefield, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. Instead of having to sack one of those tokens that Abdel creates for the bargain costs, I can just sack a clue token. Clue tokens aren't really that useful to me. It's more so that I can cast creature spells as though they had flash. High Fae Trickster, 3 colorless and a blue creature, fairy wizard, flash, flying. You may cast spells as though they had flash. This is likely going to come out of this deck because I got Marlin from the Lorwyn Eclipse set, and this is a pretty cool and powerful card. As nice as it is to play spells with flash in this deck, I think it could be better used for creatures with, I don't know, just tricky combat stuff. Cool card. I love it. It's good in this deck. It's just it can probably optimize another deck a little bit better. Virtue of Knowledge. 4 colorless and a blue. Enchantment. It has an adventure, Vantress Visions, a colorless and a blue. Copy target activated or triggered an ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. And when it's normally on the battlefield, it says if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So all of those enter the battlefield effects, they can double. Starfield Vocalist. 3 colorless and a blue. If creature, human bard. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time, and you can also warp him for 2. So let's say it's early game, and you happen to have 6 mana available. You can play Solum Simeraculum and warp him in to get 2 lands. So instead of being at 6 mana, 6 mana your next turn around, or 7 mana, you're at 8 mana instead. A lot of stuff you can do with it. A lot of enter the battlefield effects. And then this is the star card. I've looked on EDH Rec. I'm the one who published from Moxfield, the deck that's on there. I'm the only person who put Shared Fate in Abdel, Adrian plus Candlekeep Sage. And Candlekeep Sage is the one that draws you cards. This card I had in my Ian Malcolm deck because it just caused chaos and it caused a whole bunch of trouble for everybody. And I saw its unbounded potential in this deck particularly. Shared Fate, it's 4 colorless and a blue. It's an enchantment. If a player would draw a card, that player removes the top card of an opponent's library from the game face down instead. Each player may look at and play cards he or she removed from the game with Shared Fate as though they were in his or her hand. In other words, if you were able to infinitely bounce, well, not infinitely, if you were able to bounce Abdel Adrian 270 or so times to exile your opponent's entire libraries, you can play their entire libraries. There's a lot of things you can do with that. So that's all 100 cards. I feel like it's lacking something. It feels almost cheesy. I'm going to flip the key looking at cards at this point. I feel like it's cheesy. It needs something different to it. I feel like it's playing into a meta a little bit. I don't like playing infinite combos, if I can help it. My pod doesn't like playing infinite combos. So this deck is probably never going to get played. But if you happen to like more competitive decks, if you happen to like some of these combos, please let me know. Please comment. I love the Shared Fate potential. Oh, and the best part about this, you can end the cycle with Abdel on the battlefield. You can exile this, so they can't take cards from your library at all. And you can leave them with 1 or 2, so that you can play as much as you want from their library on the following turns. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll just let you know now. I'm gonna end the video in a prayer. If that doesn't interest you, I wanted to make sure it was at the end. But this is supposed to be a ministry. Recreated recreation is supposed to be, recreation recreated in order to glorify our Lord Jesus Christ. That's what I believe, and I'll share that with you. I won't force it on you. That's not the goal of this channel. It's supposed to be a ministry, and it's supposed to be sharing a hobby. I plan to do a mission statement on the channel, and I plan to do a couple other videos just explaining a little bit about it. Again, you don't need to watch. I saw that somebody subscribed. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. I'm not hoping to be some massive YouTuber. I just enjoy sharing my hobby, and I hope that you enjoy watching these videos. Let me know what you think about some of these combos. I'm going to end in a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for such a beautiful creation that you have put before us. I mean, it's always amazing to spend time with friends and to be able to enjoy our hobbies with one another. And Lord, please let this glorify you. And Lord, please reach people who have this hobby. A lot of people who experience Christianity experience it in a way where, you know, it's pushed on them, or where it's destructive, and people just are pushing themselves onto others, and it's contrary to your message. And Lord, please help this to be a positive experience to anybody who's may have experienced Christianity negatively, and let it be a positive experience to those who have experienced it positively. The people who have hobbies, I mean, everybody has hobbies, but it's a huge mission field, and there's lots of opportunity, which with a whole ton of beautiful minds and a whole bunch of people who don't know you, and they might be really smart, they might be talented. I mean, everybody's talented in their own way, but they might be spiritually lost. And so, Lord, just please help guide those people to you. And in the name of your precious and matchless Son, Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. God bless you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I've said it like 8 times already. I care. Recommendations, all that kind of other stuff. I'm new to filming, so some of these videos are going to be a little janky. I don't intend to clip them all that much if I can help it, unless like there's sensitive information or whatever. But I like genuine content where the video plays through the whole time. There's so many videos where people just clip, and it feels disingenuous. So thank you for sharing this time with me. I'll see you next time with the next video. I have 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 4, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. I want to say 39 commander decks. So I have plenty of decks to review. Not all of them are as salty as this one. I feel like this one's pretty mean. But please let me know what you think. God bless you. Bye.